Biden went on The View last week and made some interesting comments about the 2024 presidential race, which, of course, we all know Biden ended up giving to Harris, and then Harris lost to Donald Trump in November. And Biden blames sexism for Kamala Harris's election loss, says that that had a big part to play in why she lost, and that he wasn't necessarily surprised because of the amount of sexism that exists in America. There's a lot of, I have a few different things to say here about what Biden had to say about the election. But first, let's go ahead and look at Biden's View appearance here.
Surprised.
No. I wasn't surprised, not because I didn't think the vice president was the most qualified person to be president. She is. She's qualified to be president of the United States of America. Right. But I was surprised. I wasn't surprised because they went the route of the sexist route, the whole route. I mean, this is a woman. She's this. She's that. I mean, it really. I've never seen quite as successful and a consistent campaign undercutting the notion that a woman couldn't lead the country, and a woman of mixed race.
Yeah.
And they played that to a fairly well. In addition.
So these comments and Biden poking his head up in general has some Democrats crying foul and basically saying, Biden, stop poking your head up and talking. Here's an article I have from Mediaite. It says, former President Joe Biden's return to the media circuit is causing Democratic operatives to openly beg him to exit stage left, especially if he wants to keep revisiting the election defeat to Trump. In an article by Politico on Monday, several Democratic activists of varying degrees of sympathy for Biden were united by one point: it's time to move on. It's time for Joe Biden to go away, with all due respect, said Democratic strategist Chuck Rocha. Every time he appears on a show or says something, it's just another week or a month that we have to defend him and remind everybody that we got beat by Donald Trump again. For those of us trying to rebuild the brand, it does no good when you're constantly reminded about the old brand that won't go away. Amanda Littman of Run for Something was equally as scathing. Every interview that Biden does drags us backwards and reminds people of the older generation of Democrats that got us into this mess. When attention is our scarcest resource, we need to prioritize hearing from the next generation of leaders who could excite and rebuild the party. So, a few things here. First off, I believe the former president has every right to go out and speak his mind. And we have to remember, this is a guy that's been involved in politics for a long, long time. And it's got to be a bit frustrating for him to feel like he accomplished a lot with his administration, being proud of many of the policy measures that he got in, and for it to all just crumble down, and for him to ultimately see the guy that he beat in 2020 strip away accomplishment after accomplishment that his administration achieved. It's got to be frustrating, and I'm totally for Biden coming out and speaking his mind about the election. But here's the thing. Biden's doing a bit of revisionist history here, right? Because he seems to be basically saying that he would have more or less had a better chance at defeating Trump than Harris did because of sexism towards Harris and her being a mixed woman, piling on top of that, basically, not helping her in a country that can be sexist and racist, even in this day and age. And does Biden have a point there? Yes. Is there sexism and racism in this country? Yes. Were there voters who didn't vote for Harris simply because they're, sexist and racist? deep down, yeah, I'm sure there was, but that doesn't mean that Biden would have done any better, because if you remember back to around the time of that disastrous consequential CNN debate, Biden would have, the polling showed us that Biden would have gotten walloped even worse, much, much worse than Harris did. And you would have to think that for him to hand the nomination to her and say, I'm going to step down from this campaign and give you the nomination, that they had to have been showing him some sort of numbers that showed how badly he was projected to get beaten by Donald Trump. So he made some sort of decision based on some sort of data. That's what we're at least hoping, right? To ultimately decide to give Harris the nomination, deciding that Harris had a better chance to win. But now what he's saying is that, no, all along, I thought that Harris was going to lose to Trump. What? Then why the hell were you so ready, willing, and able to hand over the nomination to her? That is going to, this argument is going to frustrate the hell out of Democrats, because what the Democrats are saying is that, we believed that you were ready, willing, and able to run this campaign. We believed that you had the mental fortitude and the energy to see this campaign on through the end, and then ultimately be reelected and be president for 4 more years. And it seemed all throughout Biden's administration that he was going to be able to do that, up until that very, very consequential debate, right? Where it all fell off the rails. And there was a moment where it was clear that Biden was not going to be able to be at the front of the campaign, based on how badly he did in that debate. So I don't mind Biden speaking his mind whatsoever, but if he's going to take this angle as to what happened in the 2024 election, that Harris lost because of sexism, well, dude, you should have been much, much more adamant about making that point that Harris could not possibly win against Trump. But ultimately, Harris did, by all accounts, much, much better than Biden would have done. So it seems here that Biden is not really correctly looking at the issues that played into Trump's reelection, and is kind of doing some revisionist history here, thinking about his legacy, thinking about how, well, maybe I need to go out there and defend my legacy. And it's understandable in a time when the current president, at a cabinet meeting the other day, Biden's name was invoked 53 times. And I think that Trump constantly talking about Biden every single day definitely motivates him to stay in the public sphere. But I don't think that this is the argument that we need to be hearing from Biden, because again, if he ultimately did think that, then why would he give his full-throated support and act like Harris was a better replacement for him to now go back on that and say, oh no, I thought she was going to lose all along. Well, dude, then you doomed this country. Like your decision to not have a primary and to mislead people into thinking that you were fit to run the campaign and to, not only be president, but also run the campaign. Well, well, that's a decision that could ultimately could ultimately end up being Biden's legacy, right? If he's going to continue to make this argument that he's making here on The View, that sexism was the propelling factor to Harris's defeat. No, Harris did much, much better in the election than you would have done, Biden. And yeah, this is going an argument that's going to frustrate people. And, you know, I'm interested to see what's in this book that's coming out, kind of looking into some of the dynamics of the 2024 campaign. And, you know, we're going to see what's in that book and what it might reveal about some miscalculations that Biden and the Democrats made during the campaign.